Hello. My fiancée went camping with her ex and then posted online. Why do men get jealous when women have male friends? Insecure? I didn't say a word, just changed the locks, packed her stuff, and told her parents the wedding was canceled while she kept calling. My name is Jason. I am 33 and I work as a bartender at a busy place in downtown Houston. My schedule is the opposite of most people. I start work when everyone else is finishing their day, and most nights I get home well after midnight. It is loud, fast-paced work, but the money is decent, and I've been doing it long enough that the routine feels normal. My fiancée is Jessica, 31. We had been together a little over 3 years and engaged for about 8 months. We were living together in a small house we were renting on the west side of Houston. Most of the wedding planning was already done, deposits paid, date locked in. From the outside, it probably looked like we were already settled. Jessica could be extremely charming when other people were around. Friends loved her. My coworkers liked her the few times she stopped by the bar after shift. But in private, she had this habit of turning basic conversations into weird little power plays. If I asked a reasonable question, she would roll her eyes and act like I was insecure. If something bothered me, she would frame it like I was trying to control her, instead of just talking like adults. One of the recurring themes was her ex, Jeffrey. He never completely disappeared from her orbit. He was not around enough to cause a direct argument, but he was always somewhere in the background. A reaction to one of her posts, an inside joke comment. Occasionally she would mention some random story from years ago that somehow involved him. Whenever I noticed, Jessica handled it the same way. Calm smile, slightly amused tone, and the same explanation every time. He is just a friend now. You are overthinking it. Not everything has to be a problem. For a long time I let it go because technically nothing had happened that crossed a clear line. Being suspicious is not the same thing as having proof, and I did not want to be the guy who turns every social media interaction into an interrogation. That changed one Thursday night in late May. Jessica told me she was going camping for the weekend. She said it casually, while leaning against the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone, like it was the most normal plan in the world. Just a quick trip out of the city, she said. Fresh air, hiking, no stress before another long week of work. So I asked the obvious question. Who exactly are you going with? She paused for a moment before answering, and that tiny pause told me everything I needed to know about where the conversation was about to go. She looked at me for a second, then gave that same half-amused smile she always used when she thought I was about to say something she could dismiss. Jeffrey, she said. Not a group. Not coworkers, not some mixed friend trip where his name just happened to be included. Just Jeffrey. I waited a moment because sometimes people realize how something sounds once they actually say it out loud. Jessica did not look embarrassed or awkward though. If anything, she looked slightly irritated that I was even processing the information. I asked the next obvious question. Just you and your ex are going camping together for the weekend? She shrugged like I had just commented on the weather. Yes, we have been friends for years. You know that. The tone was already shifting, not defensive yet, but close. The kind of tone that suggests the problem is not the situation. The problem is that you notice the situation. I kept my voice calm because the goal was clarity, not a fight. I said I didn't know they were technically still friends, but a private weekend camping trip with an ex is not a small detail to casually drop 2 days before leaving, especially when you are engaged. Jessica rolled her eyes immediately. This is exactly what I mean, she said. Why do men always get weird about women having male friends? I pointed out that Jeffrey was not just some random friend from work or the gym. He was someone she used to date seriously. That changes the context. She laughed a little at that. Not a nervous laugh, more like the kind of laugh someone gives when they think they just won an argument. It only changes the context if you're insecure. That word, again, she used it a lot. It was her shortcut for ending conversation she did not want to have. If a boundary made her uncomfortable, the other person was insecure. If someone questioned her decisions, they were insecure. I asked one more question. Did Jeffrey invite you, or did you invite him? Jessica looked at me like the answer should have been obvious. He invited me. We used to go camping all the time when we were together. He found this place a few hours outside the city and thought it would be fun. The way she said it made something very simple click in my head. She did not think this was inappropriate. She thought the only inappropriate part was that I might have a problem with it. At that point, the conversation could have gone in a few directions. She could have paused and reconsidered how it sounded. She could have offered to bring someone else along. She could have acknowledged that maybe a private camping trip with an ex, while engaged, might be worth discussing. None of that happened. Instead, Jessica leaned back against the counter, crossed her arms, and started explaining the situation to me like I was the one struggling to understand something basic. Jeffrey and I ended on good terms, she said. We realized we were better as friends. Adults can stay friends with their exes. It is not that complicated. I told her that being polite with an ex is normal. Running into them occasionally is normal. Even grabbing coffee once in a while would not have raised alarms. A private weekend trip in the woods together is a different category. She sighed in this exaggerated way, like she had heard the same boring complaint 1,000 times before. It is camping, Jason, not a honeymoon. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse her of cheating. I just said that most people would see why their fiancé might not be thrilled about that setup. Jessica immediately latched onto the word thrilled. So now I need permission to see my friends. That was the move she always made. Take a very specific situation and inflate it into some broad argument about freedom and control. I told her it was not about permission. It was about respect and basic relationship boundaries. If the roles were reversed, and I told her I was spending a week in camping with a woman I used to date, I seriously doubted she would shrug and wish me a nice trip. She did not even hesitate. That is different. I asked how. Because I trust you, she said, which somehow made the statement even more ridiculous. Then she added something that stuck with me. You are acting like something is going to happen. That says more about you than it does about me. That was the moment I stopped trying to convince her of anything, because the issue was not the trip itself anymore. The issue was that she genuinely believed the only problem in the room was my reaction. I stopped arguing after that, not because she convinced me. It was actually the opposite. The conversation made it very clear that we were not even discussing the same reality. In my head, an engaged couples should have some obvious boundaries with former partners. In Jessica's head, the only boundary that mattered was whether she personally felt like doing something, and she clearly did. So I changed my approach. Instead of trying to debate the logic of the situation, I just nodded and said, all right. She looked slightly surprised by that. All right, she said. Yeah, I said. If that is what you want to do, go ahead. For a second, I think she expected another round of pushback. When it did not come, her posture relaxed. The conversation ended right there, which in hindsight says a lot about what she wanted from it. Jessica did not want a discussion. She wanted me to protest so she could label it insecurity. Without the argument, there was nothing for her to win. The next day, she packed a couple bags in the afternoon. Camping gear, clothes, some hiking boots she had barely used since we moved to Houston. She was moving around the house like Everything was completely normal.
Right.
Before she left, she made one last comment. You really should work on that. Jealousy thing, Jason. It is not a good
Look.
I did not respond. I just told her to drive safe. She left around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I watched her car pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street. Then the house got quiet. I worked that night like usual. Friday. Nights at the bar are chaos, which honestly helped. When you are mixing drinks for a packed room and dealing with 20 different conversations at once, you do not have much mental space left to think about your personal life. It was close to 2 o'clock in the morning when I finally got home. Out of habit more than curiosity, I opened my phone while sitting at the kitchen table. Jessica had already posted something online. It was a photo of a campfire with 2 chairs next to it and trees in the background. Nothing dramatic, just a normal-looking campsite picture. But the caption under it caught my attention immediately. Why do men get jealous when women have male friends? Insecure much? And just like that, the situation stopped being a private disagreement between 2 people. I stared at that caption for a minute longer than I expected to. It was not just the words. It was the timing. She had been gone maybe 6 hours and already decided to turn the situation into a public statement about insecure men. The photo was obviously staged too. 2 chairs facing the fire. Not exactly subtle about the fact that she was out there with someone. My phone kept lighting up. While I looked at it, a couple of mutual friends had already liked the post. One even commented something about how people should mind their own business in relationships. That was the moment something in my head settled. Up until then, there had still been a small part of me wondering if I was overreacting. That post removed any doubt. It was not just that she went camping with her ex. She also decided to frame the entire thing publicly like I was some jealous stereotype. I did not leave a comment. I did not text her. I did not call. Instead, I opened my laptop and started handling things one by one. First thing, Saturday morning, I called the landlord. The lease was in my name because I had rented the place before Jessica moved in. I explained that my fiancé had moved out and I wanted to change the locks. The landlord did not ask many questions. By noon, a locksmith was at the house and the locks were replaced. After that, I started packing. Jessica had a lot of things scattered through the house. Clothes in the closet, makeup in the bathroom, random decorations she had bought for the wedding. I took my time and packed everything neatly into boxes and a couple of large storage bins. Then I moved the boxes into the spare room and stacked them along the wall. The next call was to the wedding venue. Most of the deposits were already paid, so I knew some of that money was gone. Still, canceling early was better than letting things drag closer to the date. The coordinator sounded surprised when I told her the wedding was off, but she handled it professionally and confirmed everything would be canceled. After that, I called the caterer and the photographer. By late afternoon, the entire wedding was officially gone. Jessica was still out in the woods, somewhere with Jeffrey. Her phone started calling me around that time. I let it ring. Jessica's calls kept coming. And while I was finishing the last of the cancellations, at first it was just 1 or 2. Then it started repeating every 10 or 15 minutes. I did not pick up any of them. If she wanted to spend the weekend making statements online about insecure men, she could also deal with the consequences without a live audience. By early evening, I realized there was one conversation that was going to happen sooner or later anyway. Her parents, they were already invited to the wedding, obviously. Flights had been discussed. Her mother had been sending Jessica links to decorations for months. If the wedding was officially canceled, it made more sense for them to hear it directly instead of finding out through rumors or social media. So I called her dad. He answered on the second ring. We had always gotten along well enough. Nothing overly close, but respectful. The kind of relationship you expect with future in-laws. Hey, Jason, he said. Everything all right? I kept it simple. I told him the wedding was canceled and that Jessica would need to pick up her things when she got back into the city. There was a long pause on the line. He asked what happened. I explained the situation calmly, that Jessica had gone on a weekend camping trip alone with her ex, that she posted about it online while framing the situation like I was the problem, and that after thinking about it, I decided it was better to end things now rather than ignore what that meant for the future. Another pause. Then he sighed. He did not argue with me. He did not defend her. He just said he appreciated me telling him directly and that he would talk to Jessica once she had cell service again. We ended the call. A minute later, when I set my phone down, there were already 4 more missed calls from Jessica. A few minutes after that, the phone started ringing again. The next time Jessica called, I answered. The moment the line connected, she started talking. Where are you? Why are you not answering your phone? Why is my dad texting me asking if the wedding is canceled? She sounded irritated more than worried, like the situation was an inconvenience instead of something serious. I let her finish before saying anything. Then I told her calmly that, yes, the wedding was canceled. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What are you talking about? I explained everything in a straightforward way. I told her I saw the post she made about insecure men. I told her that spending the weekend camping with her ex while publicly mocking the situation was not something I was willing to build a marriage around. She immediately went into the same defensive tone she used during our kitchen conversation. You are seriously blowing this out of proportion. I did not argue with her. I just kept explaining what I had already done. I told her the locks on the house had been changed. I told her all of her things were packed and waiting in the spare room. I told her the wedding venue, the caterer, and the photographer had all been notified that the wedding was canceled. The silence on the phone lasted longer this time. Then she started talking again, but the tone had shifted from irritated to angry. You changed the locks. Jason, are you serious right now? Yes. You cannot just decide things like this because you were jealous. I told her it was not about jealousy. It was about clarity. She made her priorities clear when she chose that trip and that post. I made mine clear by deciding I was done. She tried a few more angles after that, saying I was overreacting, saying Jeffrey was just a friend, saying I was ruining our future over something small, but the decision had already been made hours earlier. When she finally paused, I told her one last thing. Her boxes would stay in the spare room for 2 weeks. She could arrange a time with the landlord to pick them up. Then I ended the call. Right. After that, I blocked her number. Jessica showed up Sunday evening. I was in the living room when I heard a car pull into the driveway. A few seconds later, there was loud knocking on the front door. Not normal knocking either. The kind where someone is already angry before the door even opens. I walked over and opened it. Jessica was standing there with a backpack and a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She looked tired, dusty, and extremely irritated. The moment she saw me, she started talking. What the hell is wrong with you? I stepped outside and closed the door behind me before answering. I did not want the argument echoing through the house. I told her everything I had already explained on the phone. Still stood. The wedding was canceled. Her things were packed. The locks had been changed. She immediately tried to push past me toward the door. I need to get my stuff. Your stuff is already packed, I said. That only made her angrier. This is insane, Jason. You're acting like a jealous psycho because I spent a weekend with a friend. I did not react to the insult. I just opened the door and pointed down the hallway toward the Spare room. Your boxes are in there. Jessica walked in and stopped when she saw the stack of boxes along the wall. Clothes, shoes, decorations small. Furniture pieces she had brought when she moved in. Everything was neatly packed. For a second, she just stared at them. Then she turned around and started arguing again. You actually went through my things while I was gone. Yes. You call my parents. Yes. You canceled the wedding without even talking to me first. I told you exactly why I did it. Her voice kept getting louder while mine stayed the same. This is unbelievable, she said. You are throwing away 3 years because you cannot handle the fact that I have male friends. I told her again that she was free to have whatever friends she wanted. She just was not going to do it while being engaged to me. The conversation went in circles for a few minutes after that. Eventually, I picked up one of the boxes and carried it to the front door. Her car was still sitting in the driveway. The message was clear. Jessica stood there for a moment, watching me carry the first box outside. I placed it on the driveway next to her car and walked back inside for the next one. I did not rush. I just moved steadily back and forth between the spare room and the front door. She followed me the second time. You are seriously doing this right now? Yes, I said. She crossed her arms and leaned against the wall while I picked up another box. You are going to regret this, Jason. Maybe, I said, but not today. That answer seemed to irritate her more than anything else I had said. All evening, she kept trying to pull the conversation back into the same argument. We had already gone through 3 different ways. You are blowing this way out of proportion. I did not respond. You're acting like I cheated on you. Still nothing. All I did was go camping with a friend. I carried the third box outside and set it next to the others. By that point, the stack was starting to take shape in the driveway. Clothes, a couple storage bins, a bag with her makeup case inside. Everything she had moved into the house over the past 2 years was slowly making its way back out. Jessica eventually stopped arguing and just watched. The anger was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Confusion, maybe. She clearly expected the situation to turn into a long fight where she could keep pushing the same points until I gave in. Instead, it was just logistics. Once the last box was outside, I stepped back toward the door. That is everything, I said. She looked at the pile, then at me. You are really ending it like this? Yes. For a moment, it seemed like she was about to start another argument. Instead, she grabbed the first box and shoved it into the back seat of her car. Neither of us said anything while she loaded the rest. When the trunk was finally closed, she stood next to the driver's door and looked at me one last time. You are going to look stupid when people hear about this. Maybe, I said. Then she got in the car, started the engine, and drove away. The house felt strange after she left. Not empty exactly, just quiet. In a different way, Jessica had always filled the space with noise, music, playing from her phone, videos in the background, constant commentary about whatever she was looking at online. Now, it was just the hum of the air conditioning and the occasional car passing down the street. I locked the door and walked back into the living room. For a few minutes, I just sat on the couch thinking about how quickly everything had collapsed. 3 years together, months of wedding planning. All of it ended over the course of a single weekend. But the truth is it did not really end because of the camping trip. The trip just made the underlying problem impossible to ignore. Jessica believed that any boundaries she did not personally agree with automatically meant insecurity. That mindset might work in casual dating, but it does not work when you are building a life with someone. Marriage only functions if both people understand that certain lines exist. The camping trip crossed one of those lines. The public post about insecure men made it clear she did not even see the lie. Later that night, I Check my phone again. Jessica had already posted something else. This time, it was vague, something about how some men cannot handle independent women and how sometimes people reveal their true colors right before a wedding. A few friends messaged me asking what happened. I did not get into a long explanation. I just told them the engagement was over and that it was the right decision for me. That was the last time I looked at her social media. The following week, I went back to work like normal. Same bar, same loud Friday nights, same routine I had before the relationship started. A couple of friends later told me Jessica was telling people I had a jealousy problem. Maybe some people believe that. Honestly, it does not matter. If someone thinks expecting basic respect from your fiancé counts as insecurity, they are free to go camping with their ex too. Bye-bye.